Hi, this is Air Marshal from Berg Peaks. Want to set the record straight. This has been nagging at me for a while, and I think people need to understand how capable these Cayennes are. There was a series, Yippie Cayenne, that FCP Euro put out a little while ago, last year sometime, and the car ultimately met its demise crossing a river on a trip that we went on. There was a lot of questions. I had dozens of people ask me why that car failed. And it ultimately failed because of water. It didn't fail because of the depth of the water. It didn't fail because the car wasn't capable. Unfortunately, it failed because of the shop that worked on the car that did some alterations to the front end of the vehicle and took out this radiator guide. This radiator guide is one of the most important things in the front of this car, and it got removed and thrown in the trash, ultimately causing a hydrolocked engine. And let me show you why. These cars from the factory, this is a 957. Here's your air intakes. These aren't snorkels, they're not anything kind of that sort. They're just a very specifically placed and engineered intake from Porsche that sits in a place that ultimately can take water. It can't take the vehicle going underwater, it can take a wave, it can take a splash. How this works ultimately is the bumper cover. So you've got your grill here, and I'll show you that in a second. These fingers sit right on top of the grill and expose a very small opening. And this is where the air is allowed to come in. Well, if a wave of water hits the front of the car, maybe a little bit gets above here, and then it ends up dissipating through these foam pieces. They actually have water drains in them. These are here to isolate this chamber. So this is your intake for both banks, and they're here. They're very thoughtfully put here. The engineers didn't mess around. Without this, ultimately, if you get a splash of water or a wave, it's a tidal wave straight into these, and you're done. I mean, that's exactly what happened to that car. These foam pieces need to be there. They fit very tightly. They have a drain, so if water does get up in here, the water disperses out. But let me show you on this bumper where that radiator air guide sits. So when you put this bumper on, all those fingers sit right here. They sit above this. So when your air comes in, there's enough here that it's allowed to get pulled up into the intake, and the rest gets pushed into the radiator. And your intercoolers, which the ducting on these intercoolers is also meant to be there. You remove those, air takes the path of least resistance, so it will go around. It will actually go around the intercooler, and you won't get as efficient of cooling. The engineers know what they're doing. Porsche spent millions and millions and millions of dollars engineering this stuff, and when you take something and you just throw it away, you're wrong. In some applications that might work. In this application, it was the demise of that vehicle. So with those fingers sitting here, you create a cavity right here that is protected, and is protected for a reason. These cars have a water fording depth from the factory. Without that, the car has nothing. You could hit a big puddle, a car in oncoming traffic could hit a puddle, and it could splash into the front, and your motor is done. Unfortunately, none of us knew this when we took that car on that trip, and I crossed the river first in a bone stock 957, floated for a second across the river, had no problems. And I had a bunch of aftermarket stuff on the front of that as well, and had that car still drives today. Unfortunately, when the FCP Euro car went through, it took a wave, and the car just sucked in water and bent a rod and destroyed the motor. Several rods, actually. Ultimately, I'm doing this because I want people to know that these cars are very capable. They can do more things than you realize, but if you start modifying them in ways that take them off the path that they were engineered for, they're actually going to be less capable. And the parts that we create for these cars enhance the capability of these vehicles, not ruin it. So for all the that asks the question, why did that car end up failing, and the Cayennes aren't capable? Well, here's your answer, and I really wanted you to know that it was not the vehicle's fault. It was the builder's fault, unfortunately. So there you go, record set straight.